Okay, let's start with Brock Osweiler. Can they fix this on the fly? Can they? The Raiders don't have a great defense. They're playing at home. I don't expect them to beat the Patriots the next week, but can they fix it on the fly and make him a viable component to their offense?
Yeah, I think they can. I think maybe that time he sat and watched Tom Savage, Brock Osweiler, and got a chance to take another view of it. Sometimes you need to get away from it as a young player and kind of see the game from another perspective. And then when you get your second chance again, maybe you come back and play better. And I also think their coaching staff will probably know better what he does best and what he doesn't do best, and they won't incorporate some of those things into the game plan that he doesn't do well. And then you have Lamar Miller that's back in the lineup. I think that's going to help him as well, having a consistent running game so all the pressure isn't put on his shoulders. Just keep the game plan very simple so he just more than less manages the football game, because you got to remember they have one of the top defenses, if not the top defense in the AFC, and you're going against a backup quarterback on the other side, so they should be doing pretty well against the Raiders as far as slowing them down. And as long as they don't make major mistakes on their side of the ball, Brock could be a viable addition back into the lineup.
Can you imagine being a rookie and starting your first game in the playoffs on the road against the Houston Texans? Right, like that's what the Raiders are going to do with Connor Cook. That's a pretty steep endeavor to ask of a rookie quarterback.
You know, it really is. The good thing about it is he got a lot of playing time last week in that last football game. I think he threw 21 passes in that ball game. So he got a chance to at least get his feet wet in a regular season game, and it was against a very good defense. I think it was against the Denver Broncos, wasn't it?
Yep.
So that was a good test for him, even though it wasn't a playoff atmosphere. It still was a good test for him, and it was on the road. So he's not going into this game like he's never played before. But yes, it will be his first start, and it is a playoff game.
Warren Moon joining us in the Doug Gottlieb Show, CBS Sports Radio. You look at the Patriots, and the Steelers have never beaten the Patriots in order to get to their Super Bowls. I don't think anybody believes in Kansas City, no matter how many games they seem to win. Like, are you a buyer into Kansas City's viability of beating the Patriots in New England?
You know, I'm more so this year because they have more playmakers. That Tyreek Hill, I think his name is.
Tyreek Hill, yeah.
Yeah, he's a game changer. I think Alex Smith has shown he'll throw the ball down the field just a little bit more. They can run the football. They take the football away on the defensive side of the ball, and if they can get Houston back in the lineup, they can really get after the passer, which is something you have to do against Tom Brady. You've got to get him uncomfortable in the ball game. So they've got what it takes to do that, and they've played pretty consistent football all season long. But I think they have a chance to go in there. We'll just have to wait and see. But I think they do have a chance to go in New England and win. They have the right ingredients.
All right, well, let's see who they play first before they get there. But again, we're all thinking that's what's likely to take place. Okay, Warren, help me out with this. The receivers for the New York Giants decided to go down to Miami. And I thought Eli Manning was perfect in it when he said, it's all about preparation. They didn't bring flip-flops or shorts. Should we make it was great. Actually, have you heard that? Have you heard his quote?
I did. They didn't bring the right wardrobe or something like that. Yeah,
very, very.
I did hear that.
Is this a big deal?
I don't think so. I think we're making it a big deal because everybody can see it. Guys do this all the time. And maybe it's not the best time to do it, to take a trip down to Miami because you're getting ready for arguably your biggest game of the year, your first playoff game. But I don't think it affects their preparation physically at all. They got back to practice, and they were there in time. And if they would have partied in New York City, which is sometimes worse than going to Miami, you could still come back to practice hungover or whatever it might be. But I think it's more because people know that they did it. I think it's more because it's Miami and the fact that it is the playoffs coming up. Otherwise, I don't see anything wrong with it. It's just not a good look. And if anything, it makes your team have to deal with something that they shouldn't have to deal with going to a playoff game, which is an extra distraction of being asked questions about this. That would be the biggest negative of this whole thing, taking your focus a little bit away from the game and having to talk about something you did before you even started preparation.
All right. Bart Scott joined us, and he's joined other shows here on CBS Sports Radio, and he's like, look, that Giants defense is built to stop a kind of more traditional, like the Cowboys. They got... you got snacks up front. You got two big boys up front. It's built to stop that type of running game, which is Green Bay is going to go no huddle and run those big boys all over the field. What are your thoughts on the matchup of this reinvigorated Giants defense against the Pack?
Well, what they want to try and do is stop the run in early downs. And if they can do that and force Aaron Rodgers to have to throw the football in long yardage situations on third down, now that's where their pass rush comes in, and hopefully they can keep him in the pocket. That's the biggest key for anybody going against the Green Bay Packers. It's not stopping their running game. It's none of that. It's keeping Aaron Rodgers inside the pocket, make him throw the ball from there. If he throws it from there within rhythm, okay, there might be some completions made, but you're not getting those big chunk plays down the field. And when he gets outside the pocket, now he's finding, his receivers down the field 30 and 40 yards. Those are the plays that break your back and tire out your defense. So the big key is keeping him in the pocket to throw the football.
You think he's better than anybody who's ever played the position?
No, I don't. I think he's very exciting. I think he's better outside of the pocket than he is inside the pocket. It's still hard to it's hard to downgrade a Tom Brady or somebody like that plays a traditional quarterback position that can just cut you up from right there in that pocket. You know where he's going to be all the time, and you still can't stop him.
How much of it, though, is the necessity of having an offensive line, not having a running game, right? Like he's got a converted wide receiver back there, and having an offensive line that lets him down. And how much of it is it's just his style, as you point out, that he's better. He's better when he makes you think he's going to run, draws those linebackers near. How much of it is like what is it? What is the expression? Necessity is the mother of invention. How much of it is the necessity because of the offensive line and lack of running game, or how much of it is that's who he is?
That offensive line is pretty good. And one of the reasons he's able to get outside the pocket and buy that much time for himself is that offensive line allows him to do that. He sits in the pocket a long time sometimes before he even takes off outside the pocket, and that's because he's getting good protection. He just doesn't have receivers that separate very well. So he helps the receivers separate by getting outside the pocket and buying more time for them to get open. But his offensive line, I think, is pretty solid. It's not like these guys are caving in on him every time, and he's having to dodge a bunch of people. He sits there for a while, and then he takes off when he sees that he can't find anybody open and buys that extra time. But he's special at doing that. I haven't seen a guy maneuver in the pocket like that in a long time. He's as good as anybody that I've seen doing it.
Steve Young, the last. I mean, Steve Young ran a little bit more, but is he the last? Is that the? If you had a grouping of those type of quarterbacks, is that Elway also moved really well in and out of the pocket? Who are the other guys?
Elway did a great job of it as well. He was another guy that I played against, and he beat me on a 2-minute drive one year. A minute and 50 left, and he gets out of 2 fourth down situations, scrambling on fourth down, and moves the chains. Russell Wilson's a guy that can do the same thing playing right now. He really maneuvers very well outside the pocket, always looking to throw the ball down the field before he takes off and runs. So, yeah, those are the type of quarterbacks that break a defense's back, because when you think you have him defensed, they break you down, and now everybody's scrambling to try and find receivers, and that's where they find big plays down the field, or they run the football themselves and make positive yards with their legs and then get out of bounds or down on the ground.
The great Warren Moon joining us on the Doug Gottlieb Show here on CBS Sports Radio. You mentioned Russell. He's been banged up this year. His offensive line hasn't been as good. They've had injuries at running back as well. Now they lose one of their most talented playmakers for the season, and just a gruesome injury last week. What's the state of this team? Like, I think everybody respects the 12 and respects what that defense can be, but you don't have your best safety, and you have a bad offensive line. What is the state of the Seattle Seahawks?
Well, it's been an inconsistent team all throughout the year because of a lot of injuries, because of inexperience on the offensive line. And when those guys have played well, they play really well, but sometimes they don't play very well. And that's what you don't know when going into this football game, how good they're going to play as a unit. They get 2 or 3 guys playing well at one time, and somebody makes a mistake. And you just can't have that in your offensive line. Everybody's got to play within unison together and have that chemistry. And because they're so young, because they've had injuries in and out of the lineup, it's really caused a problem with them creating that type of chemistry, and that's where the inconsistency has come in on offense. So this will be the 3rd game they've been together over the last 3 weeks, and hopefully they'll play much better this week against Detroit. I think this is a better matchup for them going into the playoffs to kind of get their feet wet in the playoffs if they end up winning this game.
Richard Sherman has decided to go on the war against click-based media, and so he's only going to talk to Ed Werder and then give out his own thoughts on social media. Richard Sherman's gone from one of these feel-good stories to a guy who has suddenly this weird, feels like it's a predetermined, thought-out, standoffish relationship with the media. As a guy who, look, you've disliked some of the stories that have been portrayed about you, rightfully so. What's your feelings about what Richard Sherman has decided to do?
You know, I really don't like it, and I think Richard's bigger than this. He's a guy that's very intelligent. He's a guy that has things that are important to say. I think he has things that people enjoy hearing him say, but sometimes when you go out there and say things that are important or say things that might be controversial, you're going to get asked tough questions about them. And you can't dodge away from the tough questions if you're going to talk about subjects that are going to make people want to dive in just a little bit deeper. So I think Richard is bigger than this. You can't be selective in the media that you talk to. Either you're going to not talk or you're going to talk to everybody. And I think that's the only fair way to do this. But, Richard's got to do what he's got to do. But that's kind of my opinion.